Smithy's calf, Smithy's calf, Smithy's calf! Girls, boys, music noise! Where is Smithy's calf, Smithy's calf, calf, calf? Find out!
Full disclosure, we don't know where Smithy's calf is. Welcome, listeners of Illusion to Temporal Discussion, the episode-by-episode Nightmare retrospective podcast. I'm Martin Harder, and I'm a creature similar to, yet hairier by far than any who had been Hannibal's great pet.
And I'm Martin O'Doney, and I'm a fail like hundreds before me.
Today we're looking at Series 3, Episode 6, which was first broadcast on October the 13th, 1989. Becomes the first single since Stevie Wonder's I Just Called to Say I Love You back in 1984 to remain at the number one spot for a staggering 6 weeks. No matter what I personally think of the track, that's a great achievement.
Staggering achievement, in fact, as you wrote on the script and now gently cutting round because you realise you used the same word twice.
Yes.
I see you.
Now, I just came back a couple of days ago from a live recording of the Under Consultation, the Games Master podcast, where they did the Games Master Gore special. And it got me thinking, would people like us to do a live recording at some point?
I think the real problem is we wouldn't want anybody listening to us recording live. That's the main problem with the idea. We'd let people see that we really do take 3.5 hours to cover a 20-minute episode. We're not making that up. It really is literally true sometimes. There's all sorts of stuff that we say that you desperately want to edit out, and I'm not going to hold back.
But seriously, if people did want to...
I am being serious!
If people do actually want us to do a live episode, it wouldn't be live in person, it would be over Twitch or something like that. But if you guys do want us to do a live episode, let us know, because we'd be happy to do one.
I gave you every opportunity just now not to go there. What happens after this is entirely on you. I want you to put this bit of the conversation in the podcast. It's on you, okay?
The thing is, if we do it over Twitch, I can just mute you.
You can mute me anyway. If the public vote with their hearts instead of their minds, I will cooperate. But as I say, when it all turns into a disaster, it's not on me, it's on you.
So moving on to the UK box office now, and I've got some excellent news. We don't have to try and talk about a film that neither of us has seen. We just have to talk about a film that you probably haven't seen.
Correct.
So we no longer have to find things to say about Dead Poets Society. Instead, we have the Disney animated feature Oliver and Company. It's a musical version of Oliver Twist, with the setting changed to contemporary New York City, and with the majority of the main cast being talking cats and dogs. I say contemporary, obviously I mean contemporary from 1989.
The world has moved on a bit since then as well.
New York City in particular.
I haven't seen it, so away you go. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Whilst I wouldn't say it's one of the great Disney animated movies, it's entirely watchable. It's got a good voice cast, including Bette Midler, Dom DeLuise, Cheech Marin, and even Billy Joel as Dodger. And it has one of the most memorably brutal villain deaths in any Disney film.
You sent me a clip of the death scene. I must admit, I can picture a life force clock and a bong down as the thing blows up. It's got something going for it, clearly.
And now time turns. The recording light burns. Time out is gone. The podcast is on.
Ah, I thought it was you. You're only just in time, for the dungeon has begun to stir, somewhat uncomfortably. And I think the time for adventure is almost upon us. I suppose you want to know what happens next. Well, I can't look into the future. I'm not even sure Merlin can do that. But I can look into the past, and so can you. Watch now, and salute the men of Kent. Through dungeons deep their quest is bent. For Simon, Leo, Matthew, James are going where no one has braved. In level 2, they've had some fun, and here the trains will always run to level 3, if you've the ticket to get you past a dungeon picket. But here, before the gargoyle's face, they earn no clue to where is placed the extra magic they may need to reach their quest and thus succeed. So have they blundered? Will they win? Time out has gone, so let's begin.
Kent Bent. Okay, you've really do need that put into context, otherwise we can get some rather interesting feedback. James braved, that's the inexcusable bit.
Yeah.
Fun and run, fine, if a bit obvious. Ticket, picket, that's quite clever, given the
Yeah, I liked that one.
Yeah, I thought picket's quite a clever way of saying force field there. Face, place, we'll give that one a pass. Need, succeed, and win, begin. Yeah, that's a shame about that one. James, you can come up with all sorts of rhymes for that that would probably work in the context of a Nightmare episode. Something like Ames, for instance, or Thames, or something like that. It's a shame because apart from that, this was actually quite a good Dungeon Ditty.
Sorry, just going to have a quick drink. Sorry.
So James and Braved is, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out it's
I'm deliberately
not.
I'm deliberately not reacting because I know you want me to react to it.
It's past the yard arm now, so I thought I'd have a beer, and I looked in the fridge, and the only beer I had was Hobgoblin. So I'm using my drinking horn to drink it from. I'm drinking from my Hobgoblin horn. So yes,
James and Brave is the inexcusable bit, and it's a shame because apart from that, it was quite a good Dungeon Ditty. I'm going to give this one a marginal fail.
It's a cake that says at least you tried.
Says the guy who just did a Hobgoblin horn joke for a podcast in which people can't even bloody see him. I'm just having a drink from my Star Wars mug, which is nothing but a Star Wars mug.
It really is pathetic to look upon the pitiful strugglings of ordinary mortals.
We rejoin actually the level 3 clue room, do we not? And Mogdred's image towers above Dungeoneer Leo.
Mogdred is attempting to convince Leo to remove the Helmet of Justice, which gets Traegard rather agitated.
Look upon Mogdred, intruder! Pick off the helmet! No! Look upon Mogdred and quail! Silence, you cleaner of cells! If you send your charges this deep, then you cannot expect my mercy.
Yeah, Traegard's neutrality is definitely waning here, isn't it?
Mogdred tells Leo that none of the objects are of any use to him and gifts him the spell Glory, telling them that it's the only way to reach his goal. Mogdred then cackles with laughter and disappears. Leo examines the objects on the table, a dagger, a shield with the giant pearl in the middle, and a bottle of stardust. The team advise him to take the stardust and the shield, and as he does, a sword haunting appears.
Dispel S-O-R-W-D.
A sword came off. Yeah, okay.
It damages Leo's life force before the team manage to dispel it. They then stand around talking about which door to take as Leo's condition rapidly worsens.
I don't think the life force clock was visible on their screen, so they may not have realised the damage had been done there.
What do you reckon, that door? Go up the stairs.
Which door did the sword come?
Life force warning.
Quick,
Spellcasting. E-N-E-R-G-Y.
They end up having to waste their energy spell rather soon after they got it. So this scene is actually quite exciting. I remember being absolutely petrified back in '89. As ever, with the passage of time, it's lost most of its edge now. But you have to say, with the quality of the acting from Myers and Woodnut, the conviction with which they perform there, you still manage to feel a real sense of urgency and peril that you wouldn't with lesser actors in the role, shall we say.
Leo's energy is restored just in time. They guide Leo out through the middle right door.
Okay, keep on going, Leo.
Where am I?
Right, Leo. You're standing on a checkered floor, and in the middle of the room, there's a great big hole in the floor. And then there's 2 doors in front of you, and one to the left. Oh, and one to the right as well.
Yeah.
And there's some light shining in.
Come, my old friend, come forth. Look who's come to supper.
Leo has entered a dimly lit recolor of the combat chest room from Series 3. There's an extra door on the far left wall, and instead of the bishop, there's a large square pit in the middle of the room. Now, as is the case with a lot of the Season 3 architecture, this manages to be both very familiar and completely foreign. So if you look at the squares, the ones that used to be red are now black. And if you look at the walls, though, they're so indistinct that you wonder whether this might have been taken from a photo from season 2 rather than from the original. Because they're so blurred out now, whereas they were really quite sharply defined in season 2. So, although, yes, it is definitely the combat chest chamber, the way they've done it, it seems to be quite startlingly different.
But other than that, it's just the same as the original dreaded car in level 1. It's just a tape recording, although it does look more like an actual live snake now because you can see its coils.
Sort of, yeah. So anyway, the car is summoned by the voice of Mogdred, so slowly materialise from the pit. Leo holds the shield up for protection, although probably doesn't make any difference whether he does, because again, it's still very clear just a recording of a snake. And this is where you start to feel that the team are just starting to run out of impetus a little bit, but maybe failing to get that riddle right with the gargoyle at the end of the previous episode has hurt their confidence a little bit because they seem to have a real indecision attack over which door to take. This appearance of Carr for me is actually less effective than the ones in season 1 because he seems to be a more remote, or it's either a smaller snake or it's just taken from a lot further away because he doesn't seem to dominate the scene in the same way as he did in level 1. He doesn't really tower over the Dungeoneer in the same way. But anyway, they escape without any great difficulty.
So even if they were the same size, that's a pretty big cobra.
Oh, it's a big cobra. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. That's a big snake. That is a big worm. It just isn't as frightening as it is when you see him in level 1. So we leave and arrive in somewhere we've never been before.
Where am I?
Right, you're standing at the beginning of the room, and then either side of you, a bit further forward, are 2 sort of lynxes with hearts around them, which are flashing.
Yeah, cats. Yeah.
Cats.
Yeah, and then there's a hole in the floor where they're firing sort of lasers.
Yeah.
And then past that, there seems to be sort of a candlestick.
Chalice.
No,
The
past
bottom of the
chalice.
chalice.
It's apparently called the Egyptian Room. Do explain, please, Mr. H.
That's what it's called on nightmare.com.
As usual.
This is a new puzzle for Series 3. It's another timing puzzle involving a pair of large lynx cat statues firing lasers into a hole that is periodically covered to provide a momentary safe path. Hieroglyphics adorn the walls of the chamber, which is bathed in an atmospheric yellowish-orange light, and beyond the lynxes is a central door, next to which is a piece of the chalice. Now, this is a rather striking chamber. It's quite different from most of the other architecture in the dungeon. The issue I have with it is the 2 threats, the trapdoor and the lasers, they kind of negate each other.
They both act at the same time, which rather seems to make either one of them immediately makes the other one completely pointless. If they're both acting at different times, it would make it more interesting. Instead, both lynxes fire into the hole when Dungeoneer can't stand in that hole anyway.
Yeah, put the shield above you, Leo.
Move your head.
What, like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just get rid of the trapdoor altogether and just have the lasers.
Yeah.
And that was a good idea, holding the shield above his head. If they could have worked that in...
That would have been quite cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to say, for me, of all the season 3 chambers, this is probably, with the possible exception of the twist room, this is probably the one that leaves me most nonplussed. There is something faintly ridiculous about the cats being presented as the threat firing lasers from their eyes. I mean, that looks a little bit like Batman 1960s, a partnership between the Catwoman and King Tut sort of thing.
Maybe if the cats were more obviously statues, like if they were sandy colour.
Make them a little bit more otherworldly, maybe. Another problem with it is it's very clear that the plinths the cats are perched on aren't really there, as Leo actually walks through the side of one of them as
Yeah.
he's crossing the gap. It doesn't do any particular harm, this room, but I don't think it really adds anything. It's imaginative, I suppose.
It's different.
It's different, yeah. But,
It breaks up the dungeon a little
well,
bit.
when you actually just stop and think about it, is it that different? Is it that different from the Lion's Head chamber, for instance?
Well, the Lion's Head chamber still felt very much like a medieval themed chamber, whereas this does at least present some different theming. And it backs up the theory that the dungeon actually exists at all times.
Yeah, that's okay. There's just something not quite right about it for me. For me, the way it would work best is you've got the solid floor, you then got cats shooting the solid floor and making it dissolve. And then whilst the Dungeoneer is waiting, the floor reforms. And then you've got to get across before the cat shoots it again. That would at least make the cat's involvement make sense.
One of the advisors suggests that Leo might be able to jump across the gap.
Do you reckon he can jump that?
No, no. We need to wait until that floor is over.
What have we got?
But it's very quickly shot down.
Almost literally, you could say.
They then discuss whether the floor is actually disappearing at all.
Do you know, I think that's just the laser gun.
No, that is the floor.
Is it?
When we say
Stardust.
go,
Which I have to be honest, looking back at it on the internet where the quality isn't that great, it is kind of hard to see.
I can remember when I first saw it, it took a few sort of cycles for me to actually realise, oh no, actually there is a solid floor there at certain points and it disappears.
Yeah.
It's not very, very sharply imprinted on the vision, and that might be one of the problems there. But anyway, eventually Leo does get to the other side, collects the quest piece, and he exits through the door.
Where am I?
Right, Leo. You're standing at the top of some steps.
Yeah.
And then down the steps and to your left, there's a stained glass window.
Yeah.
And then on the floor in front of that, there are lots of chasms and pathways through.
Okay.
Right, but Leo, oh, hang on, this bat's going through as well now.
This team have played very well so far. They've been the best team in season 3 by an absolute country mile so far. But you have to say they are losing impetus at this point, and they're getting indecisive. I do think their confidence is taking a bit of a jarring because they know they've missed a clue.
Yeah, you think they know they're in losing status?
I don't know if they know that. I mean, they won't have seen anything after season 2 as yet. And in season 2, even in the 3rd level, it was possible you might just get away with the odd little stumble here and there. So they might have thought, well, maybe we are. But they were clearly waiting for the moment where that came back to haunt them. I think that is preying on their minds at this point. Anyway, it's a familiar scene next. They arrive in the stained glass window chamber. Remains one of the most beautifully designed rooms in all of Nightmare.
A little bit spoilt by a very unconvincing CGI bat flying across the screen.
I don't think it really needed that there, did it?
Problem is the bat flies in a perfectly straight line.
That does not help.
If it moved a bit quicker and maybe moved in a curve or something, or even if they'd had it flying towards the screen like they have in the past.
If they did it swooping downwards so that it just passes over the Dungeoneer's head, right over the top and just skims past, that would actually make the audience jump. Anyway, they've got no clear pathway to take here. Remember in season 2, you had to do something to affect the light in the chamber. It was usually a spell. It would either turn everything dark or it would add lights to the stained glass window. And a symbol would appear on one of the pathways projected through the stained glass window. And that would tell you which path to take. Unfortunately, they haven't got a spell, which I suspect was what the gargoyle was going to give them, or some other kind of guidance. And so they have a crack at using the stardust.
Yeah, use the stardust there.
I love the way they just said it. Like, there's like a beat and they just say, "Nothing's happened, Leo."
Nothing's happened, Leo.
It wasn't the right object for this place, clearly, and without any further clues, the team are forced to have a guess. And they choose, and this is perfectly understandable, in their position, I'd have done the same thing. They choose the second path from the right. That was the correct path out of that chamber back in season 2. Both Mark and Julian had to go along that path to escape the chamber in season 2. But the thing is, it's not season 2 anymore. If you actually look very closely, this is really, really not just nerd level analysis. This is literally just go to bed wearing a parka, never let go of your flask levels of nerdiness analysis I'm about to offer here.
I know!
There is actually a clue in the picture, a very incredibly subtle clue, but it only works if you have the corresponding season 2 scenes really, really well remembered. And you also have to be able to do a bit of maths in your head to make it work. The clue is the light from the stained glass window in season 2 projected an image on the floor about 15 degrees right of center. So it now projects an image on the floor, if you look closely, about 10 degrees left of center. If you look at the image of the king's sword as it appears on the floor in particular, it's twisted about 25 degrees. That means the sun has moved 25 degrees. And the way the dungeon works, that means the correct pathway will also have moved by about 25 degrees. You move from one of the center paths to the other one. And that was, as I say, you'd have to have really memorized season 2 scenes really well to have noticed that shift in the pattern on the floor.
To be honest, I reckon because they got the riddle wrong with the gargoyle, whatever path they took was going to be the wrong path.
That's possible. That is possible. But even so, a later quest it does prove that that middle left pathway is the correct one. So they might have cheated and just said whichever one they go through, we're going to send them over the edge of a cliff anyway. But that clue is there.
Sidestep slightly to your right, just a bit, and walk forward.
Watch out for the back. Hurry up.
Hurry up, Leo. Nice.
Ooh, nasty. And how tragic. Without the gargoyle's instructions, you have chosen the wrong path and fallen at the last hurdle.
So they do go over a cliff anyway, and it's the same cliff that leads into Death Valley.
Yes, funnily enough.
This is probably the closest we actually get to a winning team in Series 3.
They're a very good side, and I reckon in Series 2, they would have won. Season 3 was always the most ruthless and challenging, and you just do not get any shortcuts or second chances in the lowest level. There were sort of signs that they were losing impetus at the crucial moment, this team anyway. And so, having said that, it would almost certainly been the guillotine chamber next, wouldn't it? So it would have been a great challenge to get past that, irrespective. But there were signs that the team was starting to lose their way just at the crucial moment.
Trigger did say they were practically there.
It feels very harsh that they lost in some ways, but at the same time, I think they knew that they had fouled up.
But they did do well enough not to just get a regular dismissal.
Your performance deserves more than dismissal. Spellcasting, unite. UNITE. Leo, Simon, Matthew, and James, the dungeon defeats you, yet the dungeon salutes you. For you have travelled furthest in this phase of the quest, and despite defeat, have become our worthy champions. Farewell, for now we learn if others may wrest that title from you.
Oh, well, that's the end of the best team so far in Season 3.
Yeah, and let's see if this new team does any better.
Enter, stranger. Aha, your name and direction, please.
James Lucas.
The next Dungeoneer to pick up the gauntlet is James Lucas.
He's joined by friends Philip, Pulok, and Jamie. They all hail from Ipswich. Now, Ipswich is, of course, about half an hour's drive from Norwich. Therefore, there are no excuses about tiredness for how badly this team do.
Well, hang on. It's about half hour's drive from Norwich, which means this team probably took 2 hours.
Okay, yeah, there is that. Well, on a happy note...
Before we go on, I don't dislike James as a Dungeoneer, to be perfectly honest, but his team are laid back to the point of being vertical.
That beer that you've had has really gone to your head. That's all I'm going to say on that for now. I want to say on a happy note, it's good to see Pulok in there. He's another example of Nightmare becoming more inclusive in an era when TV still treated that as an afterthought.
Yeah. Trigger says he hopes they know what they're doing. He gives James the knapsack and warns him to use his wits before he uses his feet. He places the helmet on the Dungeoneer's head and the quest is on.
That is a wonderfully quick intro, by the way. That might be the quickest intro ever.
Where am I?
You're in a room with no visible means of exit.
In front of you, there's a table with a die on it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Come now, team. Don't you recognize an invitation when you see one? Toss the dice, James. It's the only way to learn your fate.
Welcome to the dungeon. This is season 3. Everything is still the same. Our talking is mundane. We try to make it seem random. Our dice is on the exact same number. We'd better play the game. We'd better play and never talk about it. So welcome to the dungeon.
Obviously, the team chose the door with the shield above it, which is the door on the left. Next room.
No visible means of exits. We have another advisor here who won't use one word when 3,947.
Next room. We have a lot to get through with this team.
Not a lot of rooms in this episode, has to be said.
No, that's true.
Walk forwards. Where am I?
You're in a room with a door at the far end, and beside you there looks like a pool.
Okay.
Something appears to be stirring beneath the water. I shouldn't wait to find out what.
Anyway, the water room, which we've complimented in the past, and with good reason. Not an awful lot done with it here, though, it has to be said.
No. There's an open doorway to the top right corner. Tregog warns the team that something stirs in the waters below, and sure enough, a golden sword slowly emerges from the depths. A reference to Excalibur, perhaps, or one of the other. There were other swords in water, weren't there?
Yeah, oh god, there must be about 1 million legends just in Europe about swords being retrieved from water. It was common practice for the pagans just to throw their weapons into water when they were dying. So you'll find 1 million legends born from that. The fact the sword is attacking the Dungeoneer suggests it's an anti-Excalibur, but apart from that, yeah. So anyway, a short walk forwards and a few side steps to the right, and they're away.
Walk forward. Where am I?
You're in a room with a table in the centre, and there's a door in the east wall.
Yeah, I can just about see the table.
Could you move towards it, please?
Yes.
Clues to carry in a moment, team, but first James needs food for energy.
James moves around the table to give the advisors a better view. There's a bar of gold, a horn, a dagger, and an orange. Naturally, the orange gets knapsacked.
Peel and all. Well, that rhymed. Ugh, horrible dry. Nasty sensation that gives on the tongue, that.
Hold your hand, thief. Nothing here may be taken before you have faced Golgotha. Turn, intruder, and name yourself.
James.
Listen, small thing of flesh and bone. 3 riddles have I, and truth I seek.
And today's riddles are: before the elephant there walked a creature similar to, yet hairier by far than any who had been Hannibal's great pet. Name it. I think actually someone needs to explain to James how this works. Advisors say mammoth. He says, yeah, okay, whatever you guys think. And then he just stands there rather than relaying the answer to the wall monster. As soon as he says, yeah, okay, that whatever you guys think, they've come to a consensus. So just say it. Don't wait for them to tell you to say it. Say it.
But they get the answer right.
They do, yeah, eventually. Who owned the box which held all the evils of the world? That box which never should have been opened. We are, of course, talking about Pandora's box. They got the answer right, by the way. 9 goddesses. We're moving too quickly for our own good here. This is the problem. We need to slow down a bit for our own sake. 9 goddesses there were in Greece, of music, arts, and rhyming piece. Now tell me quick and answer true. What name call they this magic crew? I'm really, really disturbed about what these boys get up to. With an answer like nymphs.
Yes, that's something very different.
Yes, that is double entendre of the week, even though it only has one meaning. Well played, David Very, by the way, for not sniggering with receiving an answer like that. The correct answer is muses, and to be fair, I wouldn't have got that one. Certainly not at the time.
I would have got it if it come out after I had seen Walt Disney's Hercules.
They leave these traps for you by putting the riddles in years before the film is made.
Yeah.
Dirty trick on Tim Child's part, like that. But nymphs!
Yes.
They said nymphs! 2 is the score.
The Guardian tells them that the quest is for the shield and that the horn is of elvish origin, I'm going to say, because I can't make out what he says.
I think he says Irvandis, but I've never heard of it, and I've never been... Because I don't know how it's spelled, I don't know how to look it up.
He also tells them that the first step is the salute. James announces his intention to take the horn and the gold, and the rest of the team agree. They then guide him through the exit.
Walk forwards.
Walk forwards. Where am I?
You're in a room with 3 doors, and behind one of them, or in one of them, is a skull. And which door should we go?
Press onwards, team. This dungeon is now allied to strange lands beneath the castle. You must journey through them to reach the 2nd level.
James stands before the entrance to the Vale of Van Burn. A skull haunting blocks off the doorway to the right that nobody ever goes through anyway, so there's not much point in it being there. The team therefore guide our intrepid but incredibly slow-footed hero towards the door ahead when a large knight described as a behemoth enters from behind him.
Flee, James! This warrior is a behemoth and less than human!
Hurry!
Run
Hurry forward!
So I think the behemoth is played by the same actor who plays the ogre. It's the same. "Rah!"
It might be that those roaring noises are actually recordings that have been added on for both that and the ogre's scenes. I don't know, but it's a fair bet it's the same guy in there. It may be because of the armor, but he looks the right size for it. A quick warning in advance. We now enter possibly the two most awkward scenes in the entire first 3 seasons of Nightmare. What happens next is so stiff, you'd swear that the team, you know, if they were on a motorway, they'd be overtaken by stationary objects.
Where am I?
You're on a pathway between cliffs.
James is now on the path through the Vale of Vanburn. The team take forever to get James moving again until Traegon has to give them a life force warning. It is painfully slow. It really doesn't help that James treads much, much too carefully on what is a flat studio floor in reality. So there should be a feeling of real tension here, but it just feels awkward, quiet, ill-prepared, and very, very stilted. Even though they dawdle, and despite the knight showing up and continuing his pursuit, somehow James actually does manage to reach the clearing at the top of the vale. But the knight that somehow failed to come off. The knight has no excuse here. The ogre had the excuse, and it couldn't see clearly in bright daylight. But the knight has no excuse.
Well, the knight does eventually manage to cut him off and block his exit.
There's no escape! Sound the alarm, James! Sound the alarm!
Blow the horn!
Quickly, young human. The thing cannot be destroyed, only damaged. Hurry! Come on this way!
Basically, James blows his horn, and then a girl appears. Just to add to this sense of slightly overly Freudian imagery, Velda appears, screams something that nobody can understand, then points her big gun straight at the behemoth and fires something extremely phallic straight into him. This is also probably the most Freudian scene in the history of Nightmare, but definitely not one of the best scenes. And in fact, it makes everything feel even more awkward. Velda instructs James to follow her through the cave exit on the left.
And he does after about 10 minutes.
She tells him to hurry, and he doesn't.
Where am I?
You're in a room with a door in the north wall on your right and a door in the north wall on your left.
Well, you certainly took your time. However, now that you are here, you can stop worrying about the dually and start explaining how you came by that elf horn you are carrying.
The first thing Velda says is, "You certainly took your time." I'm pretty sure that's an in-joke. It's a subtle hint aimed at the team.
It's not that subtle.
No, it's not that subtle, is it?
Velda asks where James acquired the elf horn he's carrying. James and the team reply with absolute silence. Velda asks again, and eventually one of the advisors asks James to tell her.
Again, though, this is James being the problem. He doesn't need the advisors to tell him to speak there. He knows where he picked it up because he was there, and all he has to do is just answer a question.
When he does speak, he is at least very clear and well-spoken. James gives her the horn.
Matron, take them away!
And Velda finally introduces herself. She tells James that whilst he walks in her chambers, he is to harm no living creature. She also tells him that while she wishes him neither ill nor good, he may have passage. She then bids farewell, and James is slowly guided out of the cave.
That whole couple of scenes, though, genuinely were incredibly awkward. You've got this sort of gnawing on your finger as you're watching it, thinking, I'm supposed to be a fan of this?
They were kind of rescued a little bit by Velda, I think.
A little bit, yeah, but even she's still got this tendency towards double entendres that don't really help.
Where am I?
You're in what looks like a kitchen, and there's a table in the middle of the room with something sitting on it.
Hello, dearie! I should stand there if I was you! Shut up, Festus! No, I shouldn't stand there if I was you, dearie, because Festus has been known to get a bit playful with strangers. Mostly he likes to play with their livers. Shut up, Festus!
Anyway, they arrive in the kitchen after brief wonder. And Mrs. Grimwald is here, along with her trusty thing.
She suggests that James moves away from Festus, which is probably a good idea, and gives us some sort of token of appreciation. James offers Mrs. Grimwald the bar of gold, which is very much appreciated. She leaves, telling James to bring her any more gold that he might find on his way back. Treguard tells the team that they need food, and again the team seem to take a lifetime to react. They send James over to the table, but all that is on there is dry bones. One of the advisors suggests they try to eat one anyway, but Treguard points out that it probably won't do much good. James tells them that he can see a pie, which is all the way across the room, and I call bullshit. He is cheating.
Yeah, he's clearly tilting his head back.
He is cheating. There is no way he could see that pie from all over.
No, he's cheating. He's tilting his head back. So, I noticed when I wore tried on the helmet about 15 or so years ago, you don't actually have to tilt your head back very far to see all the way across the room. He's clearly tilting his head back here, which means Tim probably gave him a king for it later.
And a blindfold.
Yeah, but even with that help, he's still nearly dead by the time he actually gets to the pie, and only just barely manages to knapsack it.
Warning now, temporal disruption imminent.
The bit where Treguard warns that temporal disruption is imminent, by the way, is absolutely 100% definitely a voiceover.
Yeah, or what do they call it? A pickup, isn't it?
Yeah, the acoustics in the sound studio are very different from the ones on the set, and you can hear the difference.
I think it always is.
Oh, yeah, it is. It definitely is, because they don't know whether cutovers are going to be when they're editing it for the series.
Yeah, it's just more obvious in this occasion.
Oh, there it goes again. And it always happens just as things are getting interesting. Sorry, boys. It's into cold storage for you. And as for you, well, you'll just have to wait until the next temporal shift brings you back to us. I think you know when that will be. Join us again soon for Nightmare. And remember, sometimes the journey stops, but it never ends.
Treguard says something I really disagree with here. He says it always happens just as things are getting interesting. This team do not get interesting.
I was going to say that, except on this occasion, would be the obvious retort. Because this hasn't been madly interesting at all, has it? It was good to get some more of level 3 with Leo's team, but this lot are very generic, and so is their quest, to be honest. There's pretty much nothing happening here that we haven't seen before.
No, I will give them. They are quite fun to talk about.
Yeah, but for all the wrong reasons. There's very, very little happening we haven't seen before, and their indecision and slow maneuvering is... Oh, it's starting to hurt already.
And again, we've got the problem where Leo's team were actually a really good team and got really far. And then that just shows up how bad this team actually are.
The contrast does not help James's team at all. That is true. What a pity. The first sort of few minutes of the episode are pretty good. I do sometimes think that there's an element of wasted time about them, because there's so many rooms between Leo failing the riddle and actually getting killed off. You sometimes think, couldn't you cut away maybe 2 or 3 of those rooms and then saved on some recording time? But then you stop and think, actually, no, the longer Leo's on screen, the more you hold off James's team arriving. And that's not a good sign for the episode, is it?
I'm just looking at the time and I'm realising this is probably going to be our shortest episode yet. We've been going for an hour, and that's before editing.
Yeah, I noticed that myself about 5 minutes ago. Thinking, oh, we're near the end of the episode already. Wow.
So before we sign off, let's hand over to our youth correspondent, Feathered Menace, who has sent us her review of the episode.
Hello, this is Feathered Menace. I like Nightmare, snakes, birds, and rickrolling my friends, of course. And I can still hear the rickroll drums in the intro music. Another good episode of Nightmare. I love that they got to level 3. It's very impressive. Modred is back, and I don't trust him at all. I wonder what would happen if they used the glory spell. I wouldn't have used it because it seemed like a scam. Also, it would take the fun out of Nightmare if you could just use that spell to win, if it worked. The snake was cute, although it is a Danger Noodle, species a cobra. They can grow up to 5 meters long, what king cobras can. I don't know why the dice always land on 1. It feels like it should land on 3 because there's 3 doors. I'm excited to see how the new team does, and also the last team died. They fell off a cliff, and I'm happy to be on the Nightmare podcast again. Bye.
She seems to enjoy it more than we do.
And that's good.
I'm glad she's happy with it. I don't know if she's seen it before. That it may be that it's new to her, and therefore it works better for her. For me, I must have seen this over a dozen times.
Thank you, Feathered Menace, for reminding us about the Rickroll in the title sequence again.
Why is she bullying me?
You can follow us on Twitter. We're at NightmarePod.
If you want to support the podcast, we're NightmarePod on Patreon.
Speaking of Patreon, here's a shout out to keepers of the Book of Quests, Peter Pulsford and David N. Rabbit.
Advisors, Benjamin Bloom, Peter Sidorn, and David Thompson.
And Dungeoneer Peter Corridge.
You can support us on Patreon at Dungeoneer level or above to get your name mentioned on the podcast. Higher level perks also receive merchandise, have access to exclusive episodes, and if you pledge as a keeper of the Book of Quests, we'll even offer you the chance to be a guest on the podcast.
Our website is nightmarepod.co.uk.
If you're looking for Temporal Discussion merchandise, including t-shirts, stickers, and other products, it's at nightmarepod.redbubble.com.
You can email us at podcast@nightmarepod.co.uk.
And just keep telling yourself, it's only a podcast.
Isn't it?
Danger Noodle?